Welcome to Bedroom Forensics, episode 2, the crime scene. Now, just a heads up, this isn't going to help you get away with murder or actually any crime. It's just what we do when we look at a scene and how we process it. Now, this may be simple and you're looking for some kind of forensics analysis of a crime or a case study. Well, that's going to happen like much later, but we're going to get the Forensics 101 basics out the way first. Now, this is from my experience as a former CSI, and as I mentioned in episode 1, every force in the UK is completely different. Now, before I was even given the job, I was hidden away in a crime house in Kidderminster. That's kind of near Birmingham. Anyway, with 4 other wannabes, and every day we would have a new crime scene and learn a new methodology, be it burglary, blood spatter, fingerprint techniques. It was like a terrible cross between Groundhog Day and Big Brother. And honestly, I've no idea if that's the norm. Anywho, back to the point. Now, the scene of crime could be anything from a single room, like my bedroom, or it could be a huge building, or in one of my cases, a 3-acre park. Now, it can be worked on by one person, a dozen, and can involve the collection of a ridiculous amount of evidence. But one time in a hotel room in Coventry, I collected 63 pieces of evidence for a sexual assault, and that was from one single room. I had to bag and tag each individual piece and then write a pro forma to enter all into the evidence locker and then type everything up so we had a digital copy. I definitely had RSI after that day. Actually, I still think I've got it. But that was just part of that crime scene. A colleague collected evidence from the suspect, another from the victim's person, and another from various parts of the hotel. And this was all to ensure that there was no cross-contamination involved. And if it does go to court, we are clear about what we did with each piece of evidence, where it was found, and who tagged it. In this particular case, the victim recanted their story. Anywho, before we even get to this stage, what constitutes a scene is not determined by someone like little old me. It's actually done by the first officer at the scene and what they think should be secured. Now, this can prove super problematic later on in the investigation and has led to some high-profile mistakes being made and areas not searched. However, before we all blame that first responder, they have to do so much. In a nutshell, they need to figure out entrance and exit to scene, identify paths, make observations, collect identities, check for danger, provide medical care, get back up, and try to secure a scene. And all that is down to personal interpretation. That's a lot. And once that's all done, then the CSIs can get to work. Now, there may only be one opportunity to carry out an examination and recover relevant material from the scene. Masks, gloves, and Moomin suits, those all-in-one lovely suits you see on Crime Watch, must be worn so you don't contaminate the scene. They then get bagged at the end. Even more evidence. Yay! Now, unless the scene is about to be destroyed by heavy rain or something, then we do like to do an initial walkthrough to get an overall feel for the crime scene before collecting potential evidence. Try and walk a grid pattern when we go into a crime scene so that every part of a scene is searched systematically. I'd like to take pictures as we go to either place a piece of evidence in its original setting and also to ensure that whomever looks at the pics in days, weeks, years to come will clearly see the whole scene. We also like to map everything on paper. It's kind of old school, but you never know what happens with pictures these days. Nowadays, I've heard that video cameras are issued. We didn't have anything that fancy back when I was on the scene. Now, the important part of any scene is integrity of evidence and reducing the risk of contamination and minimising degradation. That means all packages should be sealed in such a way that all gaps are covered and secure. For example, folded bags should be sealed with adhesive tape along all open edges and not by stapling, because that way you get air, you get other bugs trying to get in. There are also packages specifically for knives and weapons. Heck, there's a whole bunch, but that's going to be a later episode. Now, once sealed, packages should not be reopened unless within a quality controlled environment such as a laboratory. This is to avoid contamination. However, some cases, like the Meredith Kircher case, experience cross-contamination at the lab itself. Now, once contaminated, you're kind of screwed. There's no going back, and you'll spawn conspiracy theories for years to come. For legal purposes, in order to maintain the chain of custody, it's essential to be able to prove who has handled which item of evidence, and then you can go to court and explain your actions years later, which is always fun. Not. Anyway, the types of evidence collected are going to be discussed in the next few episodes, so watch this space.